Hello everyone. Vimal this side. Today, in this video, I'm gonna talk about uh, or it is relevant for the audience who is working on automation side and they have written their test cases in IntelliJ or VS Code or any other ID that they are using their projects. Now the final thing is they have to configure those test cases on Jenkins so that those test cases can run periodically according to their configuration nightly or weekly in the way they want, right? So that in future if any code change happens on the dev team side for the same feature, for the sanity check, for their build check, they can run these test cases and see that any breakage happens on the existing features. So this is the screen where there's a way by which we can add a new job. So in this screen, while adding your new job and selecting different options, I'll be talking about. So first text box is nothing but you'll be giving customized name according to your job work. Suppose that job is related to some Kubernetes cluster, so you can write that k8s hyphen test or something like that, right? There are different options that you can select from this according to your project. These options are multiple options are given. So first option is nothing but where there is no dedicated configuration will be given by Jenkins. If you select this, it just give you the descriptions, parameter options where you can select your build section or your code repository options, but there'll not be anything pre-configured. Next option is related to the Maven project. If you are working on the Maven project, so there are some pre-built configuration that Jenkins gives when you use this option according to your dependency structure and all on your projects. This option you can select. Third one is a pipeline, which is nothing but if you're a developer, if you're writing microservices and other things like that, and if you want to configure those services on CI/CD pipeline, that time you can use this option, which can run on an automated basis and as well as manual. If you want to automate it, there are few options that you need to click. The moment any code change happens on the connected repository, suppose you are working on GitHub, then anything is getting any code change happens on the GitHub for that particular track or branch, this pipeline get triggered and your deployment starts. It depends what and all you're deploying, what and all you're building at the same time. Accordingly, it takes their on suit time. Next option is related to the external jobs, which is nothing but if you are running your jobs, which is not in the same machine where you are running your Jenkins. This is related to the remote machine, dependent jobs. If those scenarios are there, I can use this. There are scenarios where you have multi-configuration projects which has a similar configuration. You can use this option. Multi job projects are there. I mean, multiple jobs which is in the similar kind of configuration. You can use this option. Labby itself is a project like same as Maven. If you have a Labby project and if you want the configuration that Jenkins gives inbuilt for running a Labby project related jobs, you can use this option. Folder is nothing but suppose obviously you'll not be having a single job on Jenkins, right? Each track have their own job, each module, each project will have their own jobs, right? So first you need to categorize those jobs on the folders, and then inside folders there'll be different jobs according to the projects, right? So if you want to create a project folder, you can use this option. Multi-branch pipeline with default. These two options is nothing but when you have multiple branches, and if you're configuring the single pipeline from multiple branches, and your pipeline should detect multiple branches and accordingly do the deployment, and all these options are there. uh, Organization folder is nothing but same as folder. If you want to create a organization related multiple multi-branch folders inside the subfolder by scanning the repository, you can use this option. Next option is very important. So ideal scenario, whenever you are writing or configuring your jobs from scratch, ideally you go with the freestyle project, right? And once in ideal scenario, what usually developer and tester does is, who are working on automation side of side in the project, they make up and running with all the configuration one job, and then cloning that particular job and creating new jobs. So suppose there is already one job related to Linux. The only difference is K8 and Linux is different project, different test cases, and different branch from there, from where it gonna pick the code. So otherwise, the configuration related to the Jenkins, username password related to your code base, Git related stuff, other permissions related to your authentication authorization, which is kind of a common. You need not to reconfigure those things, right? You can copy paste the existing job which is up and running. You can paste it here, and K8 test will be the replica of this job. Then you open the K8 as hyphen test job, and change the configuration the way this project got built. So changes could be, um, any parameter which is specific to this project will go here. From which branch the code will pulled out, that will be second change. Third could be the project name, your form file ka path. And the last one is what and all test cases you're gonna write, you're gonna run. So those will be the part of build itself. So these things will be changed. Otherwise other things are like same. So I'll select this, and I'll go next. It will take few seconds to you to redirect to the next screen. It depends what is the response time of your server and all those things. So yeah, let's wait for some time. Let it load. Come on, come on, come on. Yes. So whatever I talked about the first option as freestyle job, right? If you see that, you'll not find any configuration, all text boxes, all check boxes, everything is empty, right? So this will come in picture when you're doing from scratch. You don't know anything, you have to do from scratch those jobs. So this option you can select. I'll talk about each of these options. So first option is general description about the job. You can type it. These are optional. If you're using Jira for your day-to-day activity tracking, for your stories, defect, and all those things. So for which Jira, for which story you're writing, configuring this job, you can give that and those informations here, right? Uh, and then your code base, code repository actually. So if you're using Git bucket, this is the right place to do. If you are using GitHub, then select the GitHub project URL and all those things. You need to give some display name. The third option of your source code repository is GitLab. If you are using GitLab can name, repository can name, you can give. There are a few options. Some notification webhooks. If you want to trigger on the Office 365, you can select these options. Uh, the next is yes. So the next is on which JDK version you want to run your test case. You can select here. So currently I have a lot of JDK versions. So different project, different module, different job is running on different GTK version, because it depends on uh, how old, how new the job is. Accordingly, we have opted the JDK version for that particular job, because each JDK version have their own new methods and deprecated methods, right? So that's where the multiple options you can see. So one of these options you need to select on which you want to run your job. And according to this selection, when this job is going to run on one of the slave, which is nothing but runtime system in Jenkins, it will pick the JDK version from here, right? That's next thing. Source codes management, nothing but if you have CSB, from where you're gonna pick the code, multi CSM, URL copy, and all those things. We use Git, so I'll use I'll select the Git option. Now you have a repository URL. You need to put the URL of your repository, which is nothing but your in GitHub repository ka URL. So you can have a URL or HTTP, or other one is you can do SSH. So we use URL you need to give. Then you need to have a common credentials to be used for. So while your job is started running, it has to clone the code from one of the dedicated repository. So in my case it is Git. So we need to give the credentials mapping also, so that these credentials will be used when job is started running on a particular slave on Jenkins, and it tries to log in the URL which you give here with these credentials, and start cloning the code to that particular slave which you configure. This is nothing but different branches from where you're going to pull your code. So that will come here. This is the standard Linux path for the Git to execute. So no need to touch this. This is standard one. You can ignore this. Yes, these are different options while you're configuring your build triggers. So triggering build remotely, if you can use this build after the project are built. So it depends, like build after other projects are built, right? So there are dependent projects uh, whose dependency included in your project. You want to build them first and then do this. So those options you can build periodically, build when a change push in the Git bucket. So the moment the push happens, any of this branch which you can configure here, the moment you do that, you can select this. There are options, these are related to Git, GitHub, Git bucket. These are GitLab options, by which you can make the standard way of uh, or putting the steps first or second or third in a in a systematic way, so that your code will trigger accordingly. Build environment is nothing but if you want to delete the space before your build starts. So means suppose the same slave got used by other jobs to run, so obviously there are some data will be there, some logs will be there, some unnecessary temp file will be there. You don't want any clashing happens with your job. What you can do is you can delete those workspace first, clean up them, and then start running. Likewise, at the timestamp on the console, define the upstream Maven projects. So these are the options related to your debugging, related to your agent, related to your workplace cleanup. These options you can select, right? If you see that the build step, you can select the condition, which is run always and all those things. We usually go with the build option, right? We usually select this option where we uh, sorry, not this one. Sorry, in PowerShell. Right. Here I can give a standard Maven command to execute, which will include your build for your project command and other things like the name of the project, and in the end, what is the cleanup test case that you have in your automation project. Those things you can define here. Post build activity is nothing but there are suppose there are jobs, there are test cases which is dependent on your job. You want to run those jobs post that, you can define here those things. So this is the post build actions. Yes, so this is about how you can configure your new job, adopting different options on Jenkins. That's how you can do it. Yeah.